There's a lot of things in this old world that just do not make sense. Like why there's so few believers on the firing line, while so many others sit the fence. But if you want to know where the Word of God stands, and believe it wants to use your feet and hands, it's time to take your faith out of the seats and into the streets, and come along with me. If you only look, then you will see on WCNTV.
Well, hello and welcome to WCNTV. Rob here with you, and we have a very exciting program today. We have a special guest, Usama Dakdok is going to be with us in just a little bit. Today we're going to be discussing the topic of Islam, Sharia, and the growing migration of Muslim people into formerly Christian areas around the world, especially here in the United States. Why is this important? Well, if we just take a look at Europe, we see churches are closing down in record numbers while mosques are being built in record numbers. Entire cultures are being replaced. There are at least 61 no-go zones in Sweden now where non-Muslims fear for their lives. Changing the entire culture, Sweden canceled their annual world's largest outdoor Christmas concert last year for fear of offending Muslims. Schools in Sweden now forbid students to wave the Swedish flag at their graduation. But meanwhile, they do have a prayer for diversity, and they do celebrate Ramadan. Swedish authorities now permit Islamic call to prayer, but they forbid Christian churches from ringing their church bells. And when a 65-year-old woman complained about this on Facebook, she was sentenced to prison. England has become a nightmare. German cities are perhaps the worst. And Frankfurt last year became the first city in Germany to become a place where native Germans are now the minority. Even though these Islamic immigrants are turning German streets into war zones, they're told not to worry about it. America now has 45 million Islamic immigrants, legal and illegal. And just like Europe, we're seeing Christian churches closing down and more Islamic mosques being built. And in some cases, we're even seeing formerly Catholic churches being sold and turned into mosques. So as I said, Usama Dakdok is our guest today. He was born in Egypt, grew up in a Christian home. While in government schools in Egypt, he learned Islam, just like every other student does. Usama also studied for a university degree there in Egypt, which included the study of Sharia, which is Islamic law. He came to America in 1992 and began his ministry, which is called the Straight Way of Grace. His goal is to reveal the truth about Islam. And Usama is featured on VCY America Radio Network every weekday. He's also a regular writer for Wisconsin Christian News with his column Revealing the Truth About Islam. He's also spoken at several of our concerts here in Wisconsin, conferences here in Wisconsin. And he will be one of our featured speakers this coming March 13th and 14th for the annual Ministry Expo and Conference. His focus is twofold: to equip the church to minister to Muslims and to warn all Americans about the deceptive methods being used by Muslims that lead so many people into the cult of Islam. His website is thestraightway.org. Now, just a disclaimer, we are not anti-Muslim here, but we are anti-Islam. And we are also not anti-immigrant. After all, Usama himself is an immigrant. But we are against those who come here illegally and rather than assimilate to our culture, demand that it change to suit their needs. So with that, Usama, let's discuss a little bit about what's been happening here. One question that I wanted to start off with was a few years ago, it seemed like we couldn't go a day or two without hearing some sort of news story about violence, even here in the streets in America, committed by Muslims. Now, in your opinion, was that because Barack Hussein Obama was a Muslim himself sitting in the White House and they felt maybe they had the upper hand at that point, and now they no longer do? Or are these things still going on, but we're not hearing about it? What's going on? Because it's been a while since we had some very serious issues for 8 years with Mr. Obama in the White House.
Well, first of all, Brother Rob, thank you so much for having me on your show. And I hope and I pray that as people will listen to us today, they will listen carefully and they must examine everything we say, because I don't want people to believe me with blind eyes or closed eyes. I want you, as a listener, as a Christian American, or even as a Muslim, to take whatever we teach here, examine it, investigate it. Maybe we're not telling the truth, but the best thing to do is to examine everything we say, that you will be set on the truth on your own, not because we said so, but because you have investigated what we share here. Your question is very important, Brother Rob, because truly this is the nature of Islam. When Muslims practice Islam, then we have to face the reality of what's going on in America and around the world. As a matter of fact, Muslims have been doing a great job all over the world of terrorizing Christians and Jews and even other Muslims who are called Muslim by names who do not fit with the categories of Muslim believers. So until when the infidels have the upper hand. We saw this very clearly when Mr. George W. Bush was in war in Iraq and in Afghanistan against Al Qaeda, and he was fighting, and they were fighting. There's some killed here, some killed there, and we're talking about 4,000 plus American soldiers' blood has been shed in these wars. But when Mr. George W. Bush put enough soldiers and in the battlefield, and the Al-Qaeda members, the Muslim believers of Al-Qaeda, realized that they cannot fight this battle, the war ended. It did not end because we won it, but it ended because they choose not to fight anymore. This is the reality. The teaching of Allah in the Quran, Quran chapter 47 and verse 35 states, do not be weak and do not call for peace when you have the upper hand. So when Muslims are not in the upper hand, they're weak. And if they're weak, they're very peaceful. And that is exactly what happened in America. When Mr. Barack Hussein Obama came to power, and then he has this traveling all over the Muslim world, apologizing to the Muslims about America for being America. And the Muslim got the message that they have the upper hand. And we are here in America are becoming the weak, the peaceful people who will do anything and we can to accommodate the Muslims and make them happy, including Mr. Barack Hussein Obama bowing to the Saudi king, which is to the Muslim world. It's a great sign of submission. We were surrendering, submitting to them. And that's why we see a lot of actions, not just in America, but around the world. As a matter of fact, it was the worst times in Egypt, my home country, as Muslim Brotherhood were doing a great number there. So this is the reality. If you have a stronger president in the White House, then you'll have a submission of the Muslims. If you have a weaker president in the White House, that means we will be submitting to the Muslims and they will have the upper hand. And trust me, what you see is happening in the West when Muslims have the upper hand is nothing comparing to what is yet to come in the future of the world.
Okay, let me just ask you, do you know what the current status is? How many Muslim immigrants are actually coming in currently, and what do they receive when they get here?
Well, Brother Rob, I can answer this question sarcastically by telling you we have in America, Muslims say that there's 7-8 million Muslims live in America. Of course, that number is a lie. Why Muslim will lie about that? They're lying now because they don't want to make a big deal. They don't want to shake the boat. They want the water to smoothly move as you continue to come. I believe there are 4 or 5 million Muslim nation of Islam alone. These are the black Muslims who know nothing about Islam. From Egypt, I can guess we have 2-3 million Muslim in America. From Egypt alone, we're talking about 57 Muslim countries. So what is the number of Muslims live in America? Only God knows. But I can answer by telling you, we got a good 10, 12 legal millions Muslim in America, and I shoot for another 20 illegal, 20 million illegal Muslim in America. And somebody will say, Usama, you're exaggerating. There is no way we have 30 some million Muslim in America. And my answer to you, prove me wrong. This is simple. I can shoot a number 20 million illegal, or I say 30 million illegal. Prove me wrong. And guess what? You will never prove me wrong. You know why? Because our politicians are being now, with the political correctness and their ignorance about the real problem with Islam, they're becoming so coward. You will never hear, not a Republican, not a Democrat, for sure not Mr. Trump, because if he say anything incorrectly, that will be his impeachment. Not what they're doing right now in the circus of impeachment, but the real problem. Can you imagine if somebody in our politician America use the word illegal and the word Muslim in one sentence? That person's career is over. To the point, if Mr. Trump use the word illegal and the word Muslims in one sentence, he will be removed from office, not by the Democrat, Adam and others, Nancy, no. He will be removed from office by the Republican. That is how coward and how sick we become as a country. Political correctness is the destruction of America. And we have plenty people who believe it, and they will die to practice it. Political correctness. So how many Muslims we have in America? Only God knows, because I know for sure we get 100,000 students every year. And none of these students leave America. None of them. So they come as a student, they fall in love with your daughters or your granddaughter, somebody's daughter, and they change the visa from student to a green card and move on to be in America. As the number of illegal coming to America from Canada, we have no clue. I know we're doing a great job to build a wall between us and South America, but trust me, we need a bigger wall between us and Canada. Why is that? It's very simple, because Muslims can go to Canada very easily. You can go to Canada right now with your 4 wives and your unlimited number of children and grandchildren. So if they can go to Canada, they can walk from Canada to America. And trust me, nobody will talk about that. So the number of Muslims, only God knows, but I'm shooting for 30 million, 10 legally and 20 illegal, until somebody prove me wrong.
Well, the information that I just had was 45 million, and that was statistics from last year. So, but when they come in, they receive government aid. Is that correct?
Oh, sure. Now, depends how you come to America. If you come into America legally, that is the beauty about Muslims, refugees coming to America. First of all, we have to understand it was under Barack Hussein Obama that he invented the title or the phrase Muslim refugees. Why is that? Because I believe there is refugees, and there are plenty of millions of Christians and others in the Middle East who needed to be here as refugees, but not the Muslims. Because why we call Muslim refugees? That gives them the title, the label to have the right to come to America. Because trust me, none of the Muslims who are right now, for example, will bring millions of Muslims from the Muslim world as refugees. I know the number has been cutting down under Mr. Trump, but under Mr. Obama, we're talking about literally millions of Muslims came to America as refugees. And the only people who benefit out of this Muslim refugees are 2. The Muslims themselves, so they can come to America. They didn't even have to buy their flight. Why you gotta spend $1,500 or $2,000 on each member of your family to bring to America in an airport, an airplane from Somalia, from Mogadishu, or from Nigeria, or from Syria, or from Iraq, if you can come as the people of America, take care of the ticket. They paid for you. So if they come to America as refugees, they benefit because they don't have to buy their flight. They don't have to work hard to make a living like you and I do. They don't pay taxes because they're on welfare. And I understand the government will tell us they're not on welfare for life. They're only going to be on welfare for a year or 2 until they stand up on their feet and they be able to work. Well, how about if I show you hundreds of thousands of Muslim refugees who came to America literally 10 years ago, and they're still on welfare, and they will never be off the welfare. They and their children and their grandchildren will be on welfare. So that is the first one who benefit from Muslims coming to America, the Muslim who came to America as refugee, And the second one, which is the liberal churches, they made the big bucks. How? These Catholic and these Lutherans and these whatever, even some liberal Baptists who brought the Muslims to America, they were used by Mr. Barack Hussein Obama as useful idiots. What is a useful idiot? You go online and search it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. They were used for the good of the Muslims, for the destruction of America without their knowledge. So they were getting between $1,000 to $5,000 for every Muslim they resettle in America. So on one hand, Mr. Barack Hussein Obama will tell you, I did not bring any Muslim to America. It is the church. Why? Because he only created this status or this new category of Muslims coming to America as refugee, and the church is the one who brought them here. And if you go talk to the church, the liberal church, and you say, why did you bring the Muslim to America? They will tell you, because we're Christians. You see, as Christian, Brother Rob, we must love the people of the world. We must take care of the widows. We must take care of the orphans. We must take care of the people in need. Why the church, the liberal church, did not do that to the Christian of Somalia? Or the Christian
Well,
of
exactly.
the Christian of Syria, or the Christian of any other Muslim country. They only bring Muslims. Now we ask the second question. Do you really love these Muslims? They say, sure, we brought them to America. We teach them English as second language. We give them clothes. We give them food. We give them old furniture, whatever they need. That's not loving the Muslims. The Bible did not say give a glass of water to people that they will be take care of their thirst, and that's a good work, and that you love them. No. The Bible said a glass of water in my name. That is what Jesus said. I give you a glass of water because I want to tell you Jesus loves you. So do I. Here's a glass of water, Brother Rob. Drink it and enjoy it. That's not what these liberal churches are doing. They never share the gospel with the lost Muslims, and they care less about sharing the gospel with the lost Muslim world. Just last week, I was in Wellmar, Minnesota. And literally 300 people were outside the school. I was speaking in primary school there, prep school, and there were 300 or so protesting outside. More than half of them were Christians. They were praying for me, Brother Rob, that the Lord would change my wicked heart so I love the Muslim people as they think they love the Muslim people. They actually, 40, 50 of them came inside the meeting. And these Christians were going around in the school auditorium, and they were hugging the Muslims, and they kiss them, and they take them out. Do you know why they were taking them out of my meeting? Because they don't want them to hear the truth about Islam. Because they know what I was saying is truth. They were outside the school protesting me, claiming that I'm Islamophobic, teaching lies about Islam. But when they came in and they heard the powerful message, the truth, as it is written in the Quran, Allah's word, in the Hadith, Muhammad's words, and as it is interpreted by all Muslim scholars, they start getting antsy. They start taking the Muslims out of my meeting to outside the school. But you know what, Brother Rob? These so-called Christians do not love the Muslim people. We do love the Muslim people, because I'm willing not only to share the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Muslim people, but I am even willing to die for the Muslim people, to let them know that there is one truth, there is one way, and he is Jesus Christ. And without him, no one can get to heaven. This is not my words. You see, Brother Rob, if Christianity is true, Islam 100% false. And the opposite is true. If Islam is true, Christianity 100% false. As a matter of fact, Christianity and Islam both can be false, but there is no way under the blue sky they both can be right. And that is what the Muslim need to know, and that is what the liberal so-called Christian need to know.
Well, exactly, and these churches that you're describing, they're all part of the World Council of Churches or National Council of Churches.
Sure.
It's social justice. They don't preach the gospel to their own people, much less to the Muslims.
Exactly. So if they truly love the Muslim people, they will share the gospel with them to lead them to Christ. But as you just said, they themselves are not Christians. So how can you give it away to somebody when you don't have it yourself?
Right. So, as I understand it, there are 57 Islamic countries that these refugees, if they are refugees, could go to and have a culture that's very similar to what they're used to. Yet they want to come into Europe, and they want to come to America. You mentioned Minnesota. Minnesota is completely different from what it was 20 years ago. Completely different.
Well, brother Rob,
There
here
we
is the
have the
truth.
no-go zones also. So
Yeah, we have. Here is the truth. We have it on video. This Muslim Somali who came last week to my meeting, we have it on video, so I'm not making this up. She said, one of the young lady who came to the mic to ask questions in the end of my meeting, as I always do, I love Muslims to come, ask live question on the spot, take the mic, ask me a question. And she said on her own, she said, we could not go to Yemen because in my teaching, I explained that Muslims come to America. Muslims go to Europe. Muslims do not and cannot go to other Muslim country. So she is from Somalia across the Red Sea within an hour flight. She can be inside Saudi Arabia. So she said she could not go to Yemen because the people of Yemen who are Muslims are racist. They don't like, they don't love, they hate Muslim Somali because they are black, which is true. I can prove it 100%. Not one Arab Muslim country have liked or loved a black person, even if he's a Muslim. Why? Because Islam teaches that black is slave. Allah made them black because He cursed them and He wants them to be slave. You can be a Muslim black, but as slave, not as a free man. That is Islam. That is Islam. So she could not go to Yemen. I don't want to argue with her to embarrass her because she was already emotionally under stress. I was going to say, have you tried Saudi Arabia, sweetheart? Saudi Arabia, who are super rich, they're surplus, they're not in debt like Americans. We have 22 or 23 trillion in a hole. See, American people do not know the reality of who we are. We're a broke country. Yes, the economy is doing great under Mr. Trump, but we're still 23 trillion in the hole. As a matter of fact, Mr. Trump just added 2 more trillion. It was 21 when he receives the power of the White House from Mr. Obama, and now it's 23. And before he leaves the house, the White House, in the next 5 years, most likely it will go up to maybe 28 trillions. T, not B, in a hole. Saudi Arabia is surplus. They are not in any debt, but they will not take one Muslim family, not from Somalia, not from Egypt, not from Syria. Why? Because they're smart. But they are using their influence, their money, to bring Muslims from all over the world to come to America, because they are practicing jihad with their money. As Allah stated in the Quran in 11 verses, same verse, those who believe and immigrated and performed jihad with their money and their life. Notice money come before life in the teaching of the Quran. So Saudi are spending money to bring Muslims to America. They can bring him to America as businessmen. Oh, what do you mean businessmen? Notice none of the Palestinian or the Syrian or the Egyptian who own gas station in America can afford to buy these gas stations. If they have the $3, $4, $5 million, they will not come to America work in a gas station. But somehow, miraculously, these owner of gas station in America come up with the money and they were able to buy the gas station. If you have $1 million or more, you can come to America as a businessman. How in the world these Palestinians who do not have money to make their purchase for their flight to come to America can come to America and own a gas station worth $3, $4, $5 million? It's because Saudi Arabia is involving in that. There's lots of smoke there, and trust me, brother Rob, nobody in America will talk about it. Not our politician, not the media for sure. So how about the students who come to America to study in America? Are you trying to tell me that students who is coming to America to study science or to study how to fly an airplane or to study to be a doctor cannot have the same degree in any of the moderate Muslim country like Egypt, for example? I mean, we have doctors in Egypt, we have engineers in Egypt, we have pilots in Egypt. Why Saudi Arabia bring Muslim students from planet Earth to America if they can send them to Egypt for lots cheaper? I mean, you talk about saving billions of dollars. No, they're willing to spend the money to do scholarship. They actually give millions of dollars to our schools in America so they can allow Muslim students to study in America, because Muslims of Saudi Arabia are super smart. They are invading America by these Muslim students. As I said earlier, they come to America, study. Within the first couple of years, they fall in love with our daughters, our granddaughters, and they never leave America. It is invasion, not
well, and that invasion, that which they call immigration, is actually a form of a jihad, isn't it?
Absolutely. Don't forget the verses of Allah. 11 of them throughout the pages of the Quran. Those who believe, so they're Muslim believers, they're not radicals, They're not extremists. You will never find the word radical or extreme anywhere in the Quran, Allah's words, or in the Hadith, Muhammad's words. So those who believe and immigrate, that's go to America and perform jihad. Three steps. They believe in Islam, they will come to America, and sooner or later they will perform jihad. And that is the end of America.
Okay. A lot of people have heard the term Sharia, and I know you'd like to get into that topic a little bit because that's really been a push in a lot of the areas. We have a lot of politicians from city councilmen all the way up to Ilhan Omar, and they're infiltrating into our government now, and their ultimate goal, I believe, is to bring about Sharia. So, Usama, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, before we even get into this topic, I have to explain to our dear audience that we only have 160 slides or close to it in this presentation. And obviously, the time you have is what, 3 hours, 4 hours? How much time we have?
We have 33 minutes.
Okay, so we do not have enough time to talk about Sharia, but here's my promise to you. We're going to cover some of this material today, and who knows, maybe Brother Rob will like me a little bit more, and he'll allow me to be with him on another show in another week.
Oh, we love you, Usama. We love you.
So if that's the way, we're just going to jump today all over. We're going to chase rabbit with this presentation, and the Lord's willing, we'll cover more of this material in the near future broadcast. So if you don't mind, our producer, would you please this presentation?
This troubled world is experiencing a clash of cultures and an ideological war that dates back over 1,400 years. The loyal followers of a violent and intolerant religion are once again on the march, seeking to bring the globe under the domination of Islam. The nations that have fallen prey to this ungodly faith are quite easy to recognize. Freedoms and rights enjoyed by most of us in the West are typically denied in Muslim countries. Women and homosexuals are oppressed or killed. Other faiths are banned or discriminated against. Certain foods are prohibited, and penalties for even simple crimes are cruel and severe. This way of regulating every aspect of life and government is simply known as Sharia. Muslims claim that Sharia, or Islamic law, and the freedoms and rights we enjoy from the U.S. Constitution are perfectly compatible. But is this true? Can Sharia and the U.S. Constitution coexist in America?
I recognize that voice. That's our friend Gordon Morris, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Well, it's a very important question, Brother Rob. Can Sharia and the U.S. Constitution coexist in America? If you ask that question to our politician, they will say, according to what they learn about Islam, no problem. And I'm going to prove to you my point here as we're going to hear some of the Muslims' opinion of Sharia. But if you examine Sharia and learn the truth about Sharia, you'll find that it is unconstitutional for Muslims to even mention the word Sharia within the border of the United States of America. Two completely opposite answers. Muslims will tell you nothing wrong with Sharia. As a matter of fact, I would like to move on to learn about Sharia from the next video. If my producer can take us to slide, let me share with you slide here. Slide number 6, if you don't mind. Let's go to slide number 6 to learn about what is Sharia.
A couple of our audience members wanted to hear more about Sharia law, in particular to how it's regarded by Muslims living in the United States and its relation to North Dakota laws. Does anyone feel like can speak to that? Okay.
Very good question. If anybody in this room found Sharia law book, please bring it to me. I'm serious. I really want to see this book. Where is this Sharia law book? In Islam, we have Islamic rules, Islamic laws that every Muslim follows. Some do not. Some follow some of it. But there is nothing as Sharia laws book. That there is a written book, and we as Muslims go and want to apply that book to our daily life in North Dakota or anywhere we live. Our scholars, the Islamic, the school of thought that I myself follow in in Islam tells me that I have to follow the rules of the country that I live in. That's it.
What a smart answer from a deceiver Muslim. First of all, Brother Rob, and all our dear audience who listen to us and watch us right now, he denies the existing of Sharia in a book. It's like, hello, I study Sharia in Egypt in books. Sharia is written in hundreds of books. As a matter of fact, I'm going to ask my producer to give us a picture here. I'm going to show it to you which slide I'm going to tell you to know if there is a book in America. If there's a book in America about Sharia. So here we go. If you don't mind, our producer, go to slide number 38 while I'm talking here to show our wonderful audience that there is Sharia. This is not something we're making up. But he is telling us that if anyone finds Sharia law book, please bring it to me. And all the people in the church, by the way, Brother Rob, this is a liberal church in North Dakota, and they love to bring Muslims, and they love to hold hands with the Muslims, and they love to sing the famous song that is Barney's song, I love you, you love me, we are a happy family. I'm getting tired of a Kumbaya song. I moved to another song, you know. Anyway, so here's the deal, Brother Rob. The question was asked about Sharia law. Excuse me, what? Sharia law? What is Sharia law? Let's go back, if you don't mind. I know I'm going to be driving our producer nuts today because I'm taking back and forth. Let's go to slide number 7. Because if you check with me, the word Sharia in the Arabic language is the word law. So when she said some of the people here are concerned about Sharia law, she's saying to the Muslim man and to the world, some people in America are concerned about the law, which means she is living in la land. She has no clue what she's talking about. And so is every politician in America, and so is every media in America, even ministers, Christian ministers who speak against Sharia in their pulpit in America, they use the word Sharia law. Excuse me, no such a thing as Sharia law. It's Sharia or Islamic law. Now, he said, there is no book of Sharia. Now, we saw the book. Of course, there is a book. Now, he said in his school of thoughts, when you hear the word school of thoughts, the big word, Brother Rob, like some preacher used some Greek words or some Hebrew words, and nobody knows what it is. What is school of thoughts? In his denomination. As we know, there are 4 big denominations among the Sunnis and 2 big denominations among the Shiites, and then there are hundreds and hundreds of small denominations. In his school of thoughts, he said that the Muslim must follow the law of the land where they live in. Is this real? I would love to know what school of thought he's talking about, because I want to learn something from him. Because in reality, my dear friends, in Sharia, it says you only follow Sharia. Follow the words of Allah, not the words of early American infidels who we call the early fathers of this country, who wrote us our constitution. He said, that gentleman, that some Muslims follow some laws, some do not follow fully, some follow others, but there's no Sharia law book. That is lies from the bottom of hell. So Sharia is the word law. Let's move on to the next slide. So slide 8, where we learn that you have to use the word Sharia. Not use Sharia law, because that make you an ignorant of the topic. Now, on slide 9, I want you to learn some facts about the term Sharia. So if our producer can help us out here and play for us, please, slide number 9.
The term Sharia is the sacred law of Islam. It is used to refer both the Islamic system of law and the totality of the Islamic way of life.
That is what Sharia is. How Muslims are going to live their holy life. How Muslims are going to live their life. So for that gentleman to tell us that some Muslims follow some and some follow, excuse me, let's go to Egypt. And I would like any of the Muslims of Egypt or Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan or Pakistan or Indonesia or Mauritania or Morocco or Algeria or Libya or Sudan. I mean, I can name, or Saudi Arabia, I can name 57 Muslim countries right now. What country that gentleman can take us to, and I will show him, or he can prove to me, that Muslims can drop some of the laws of Sharia. They're going to pick up some and leave others. Which country in the Muslim world will allow, for example, a Muslim man or a woman to leave Islam? Which country in the Muslim world will allow a Muslim woman to marry a non-Muslim husband? Which law in the Muslim world will allow Muslims to disgrace the Quran or disgrace Muhammad? Just speak ill of Muhammad. Say Muhammad's not a prophet. Just have your freedom to say something, like goes against anything in Sharia. The answer is none. So there is no some Muslim country allow people to have freedom to follow all the laws of Sharia or some of them. No, you cannot drop one law. Why? Because that will cause your death. You can drop it, and they're gonna drop off your head from the top of your body. That is decapitate you. And if that's okay with you, then you may think there's freedom in Islam. Of course, there's no freedom in Sharia. Now, I want to ask a question, as we're gonna go to slide number 10. Where Sharia comes, is Sharia what Usama Dakdok claim it to be, or maybe Rob or some Christian ministers in America or some Jewish rabbi say, here's what Sharia is, or Sharia have a source? What is the source of Sharia? We learn that Sharia come from two books. The first book is the Quran. What is the Quran? Allah's words. What did Allah say in his book? He said, do this and don't do that. And if people will obey Allah, here is the blessing, here is the rewards of all the orders and all the commands he put in his book, the Quran. And if people disobey the word of Allah in the Quran and they choose not to follow some of the rules of Sharia, that's okay. There is a punishment written where? In the same book. What book? The Quran, Allah's words. That is the first source of Sharia. If we look at the second source of Sharia, we find it is Sahih Bukhari. For example, I'm giving you a picture of Sahih Bukhari. That is the collection of the saying, of Muhammad's words. So what did Muhammad's words says? Muhammad said, do this and don't do that. Similar to the word of Allah in the Quran, it is the words of Muhammad in the Hadith. When you go to the Hadith, surprise, surprise, guess what? Here is the laws Muhammad wants Muslims to live by. And if you disobey them, here is the punishment. And if you obey them, here is the rewards. So Sharia is not something open for suggestions. And if you feel like not obeying this rules or this law, you don't have to. No, it is Allah's words. It is Muhammad's words. Command has been given. Muslim must follow. You follow it, you'll be blessed by the reward. You disobey them, there is a punishment. And the punishment, trust me, as we saw in our intro, is severe. You'll be shocked, as I'm going to share with you some examples, if not today, maybe in the future, about what happens if Muslims do this or what happens if Muslims do that. You'll be shocked. Now, the next video on slide number 11, I believe is very important because Mr. Nabil, he was Egyptian, by the way, was in the same meeting in this Meet Your Muslim Neighbor meeting, or they call it in the meeting, hogwash meeting, whatever you want to call it. Listen to what Mr. Nabil said concerning Sharia.
But for the certain things that human beings need guidance, there are some rules, and they are so flexible, they can, use to apply to any place at any time, because things change during from ancient times until now.
What a great another liar. Why? Because he's telling us, American people, relax. American people, relax. Don't be nervous. They take it easy. You see, the rules of Sharia are flexible. It can apply to, and he was a little bit hesitant. He want to say America, but he didn't say it. Brother Rob, he's trying to test the water. He does not know how far he can go. It can apply anywhere around the world, but it is flexible. Why? Because he said things change. Things change. Yes, indeed. See, in Muhammad days, he used to ride camels in the 7th century, and camels can go up to 18, 19, say 20 miles an hour. Today we ride trains, and the train go over 300 miles an hour. As a matter of fact, we have these airplanes they can go a lot faster than train, and we can have this rocket can go thousands of miles. I mean, huge. So things change. Allah in his wisdom made Sharia flexible. Now, is this true? Let's examine the next slide to learn about number 12, our wonderful producer, to see about, is Sharia really flexible because things change?
Sharia cannot be improved, reformed, or changed because it is based on the Quran and Sunnah, which Muslims believe is perfect, eternal, universal, and complete.
That is the opposite of what Muslims are teaching in America. You have to understand now, Sharia comes from where? The Quran, Allah's word, the Hadith, Muhammad's words. Can we change the word of Allah? No. Can we change the word of Muhammad? No. You see, the word of Allah is perfect. The word of Muhammad is perfect. The word of Allah is eternal. It means Allah wrote it in the tablet board, the guarded board, before the creation of the world. He can't change what Allah wrote literally millions and millions and millions of years ago, as Muslims believe. Now, the word of Allah and the command of Muhammad are universal and they are complete. You cannot add to it, you cannot take away from it. Sharia is not open for suggestions of some liberals in America or some so-called moderate Muslim in America. I'm sorry, they're both wrong. They're liars. They're not telling the Muslims the truth, and they're not telling the American people the truth. Sharia cannot be improved or reformed. End of story. I love it, Brother Rob, when some people will tell me, well, you know, Christianity has been reformed 500 years ago. Remember Martin Luther King, Martin Luther, and remember this, different reformers in the church history. Excuse me, Martin Luther did not reform Christianity. Martin Luther reformed the church, which have left Christianity, by bringing the church to the Bible. That is, as he stated, solo scripto, which means scripture alone. So you cannot reform the Bible, you cannot reform Christianity, you cannot reform the Quran or the saying of Muhammad in the Hadith, you cannot reform Islam, you cannot reform Sharia. This is what the Muslims need to know, and that is what the West need to know, because so-called moderate Muslims are deceiving themselves and poor Muslims who do not know, because they say, we're here in America to reform Islam, we are reformers. No, you are not a reformer, you are a joke. You are a
well, just to go down a quick rabbit trail, and then we can get back on this. There are a lot of Muslims that appear to be or believe that they are moderate Muslims, but they really don't know the truth of what their own holy books actually say. Very similar to the just how we have so many liberal Christian denominations, and they don't know what the Bible says either. So
no, sadly, Brother Rob, you're absolutely right. Well, before we go down to, let's get next slide here, slide number 13, whereas from in it we learned that. Go ahead, brother. That's okay. Go ahead, play.
In fact, most Muslim scholars in the world today would identify and say America has more principles that adhere to Sharia than in most Muslim majority countries.
This is Julani Hussein, the executive director of CARE in Minnesota. We have been offering him a debate. We have been challenging him for a debate. Him and Virginia Mustafa, a white American Catholic lady who became a Muslim, and she is now traveling all over Minnesota to teach about the Islamophobic people like me, that she's an expert on Islam. By the way, she knows nothing about Islam. We just put her on the spot last week on a video. We got the video. It's actually available online right now. You can watch it on YouTube, where she refused to debate me. So as Mr. Julian Hussein refused to debate me. But here's what Muslims say, that in fact, when you say in fact, you think Muslims are telling the truth. No. Every time Mr. Julian Hussein used the word in fact, he was lying. In fact, in that presentation, which by the way titled Islamophobia, okay, he said, in fact, most Muslim scholars in the world today, well, how about show me one Muslim scholar? He said, most Muslim scholars, I'm asking for one, give me a name of one. He said, they will identify that in America has more principles that adhere to Sharia than in most Muslim majority countries. I'm sorry, that is a lie. As a matter of fact, nothing, nothing in Sharia can fit in America, and nothing in our Constitution can fit with Islam. That's why we're challenging Mr. Julian Hussein for a debate. So is Todd Green, the liberal Lutheran, who is a doctor, and so is Regina Mustafa, so is Linda Sarsour, so is Nahid Awad.
Most Muslim
no
majority.
Muslim in the world today will take a debate on that topic. So anyway, let's move on. If Brother Rob, do you have any question before we go down to my presentation here?
Sorry. You are open to doing debates with people, to doing debating Muslims
Sure.
in public forums. How often has that occurred?
Well, last one I did a debate was a gentleman. His name is Yusuf Ishmael from South Africa, and I feel sorry for him because he's not qualified to do debate, but he's saying he's a scholar, and that was maybe what, 4 years ago. For the last 4 years, I'm looking for a Muslim to debate me, somebody who can read Arabic and understand Arabic. That's all.
Right.
Knows Islam, of course. So, as a matter of fact, in our articles, which we write in Christian newspaper, every time we have in the end of our article a disclaimer, then we say in it, if anybody have objection to what we wrote here, we're open for debate. Please come debate me. But nobody will call for debate because they know that we're telling the truth. Let me give you another opinion on slide number 64. Slide number 64, that is Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf. Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf is a gentleman who tried to build, remember that situation under after September 11, and as he want to make a memorial mosque there, and he wanted to name the mosque Cordova Mosque, which is, by the way, a name of a Muslim battle the Muslim won in Spain. That's why we call it Victory Mosque. Yes, we killed 3 Southern Americans, and we're going to celebrate it. How? By building a mosque, and we're going to call it by a battle name where Muslims won. That is sick. But anyway, listen to what Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf said about Sharia.
So 90% of Sharia law is fully compatible, not only compatible, is consistent or compatible with American constitutional law and American laws.
Really? 90% of Sharia, and he used, by the way, Sharia law. Pakistani Muslim, God bless the Muslim in the world who do not even know Arabic. 87% of the Muslim people in the world today, they have no clue what is written in the Quran. Like that Imam using the word Sharia law. I mean, Americans say it because they do not know what the word Sharia. They maybe assume the word Sharia means something to do with Islam. No, Sharia is a word law. But anyway, he said 90% of Sharia law fully compatible with the American Constitution. How about a debate, Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf? If you have 90% of Sharia and you know it fit perfectly with the U.S. Constitution, why don't we have a debate? And I'm asking you to show me one law in Sharia fit with the U.S. Constitution. Not 2 laws, not 5 laws, not 10 laws, 1 law. I mean, do you guys know how big the Sharia is? Islamic law is books, volumes. Show me 1 law in Sharia fit with the U.S. Constitution, and I will quit my ministry, and I'll be the best Imam you can ever have in the Muslim world. I will turn all America to Islam. But the reality, there's not 1 law in Sharia fit with the U.S. Constitution. But now I want to show you the contradiction of some Muslims in the West. In the following slide, which is 96, slide 96, you will see in the next few slides here, from 96 down, you will see that some Muslims in America, they're not for Sharia. But wait a minute. Mr. Julani Hussein, the executive director of CARE, told us that America is the best place to practice Sharia. Mr. Nabil before him said Sharia can be applied to any country in the world because it's flexible, because things change. The gentleman before said, Sharia is no, we don't have Sharia law book. Show me a book. In my laws, in my school of thoughts, we just follow whatever law we live in any country. By the way, this can prove wrong because in the 57 Muslim country today, when Muslims move to these 57 Muslim countries, they never follow the laws of these 57 Muslim countries before they became Muslims. They did not follow the law of Egypt. They changed the laws of Egypt to Sharia. They did not follow the law of Turkey or Spain. When they moved there, they forced their Islam on the people there. So I'm sorry, I don't know what evidence does he have for that. And now, obviously, Mr. Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf is telling us that 90% of Sharia is fully compatible with the U.S. Constitution. I'm sorry, that's a lie. If that's the truth, why some Muslims in America oppose Sharia? Let's move on in our slide to 96 and then 1997 and on.
The Muslim Brotherhood and their organizations in the U.S. are dedicated to a process of settlement they term as a civilization jihadist process, describing
Next, please.
Brotherhood members emphasize that they follow the laws of the nations in which they operate. They stress that they do not believe in overthrowing the U.S. government, but rather that they want as many people as possible to convert to Islam.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Are you listening to the Muslim Brotherhood? My dear friends, we're talking about the Muslim Brotherhood who are burning churches right now all over the Muslim world. Those are the people who are killing Christians and Jews and others who does not submit to Islam, and they're raping their wives and their daughters. These are the same people who are here in America dressed in suits and ties. And they're telling us that they're here in America not to overthrow our government, but they're here in America with one purpose. What is the purpose? Converting the Muslim, the American people into Islam. Converting the Catholic and the gay and lesbian and the Baptist and all people in America are given this great opportunity to convert to Islam. This is the reason why the Muslim Brotherhood in America, they're here to practice da'wah, to invite the American people to Islam, and may Allah bless America, and we have plenty of Muslims in America. Why? Why do you want the American people to become Muslim? Do you want to know why? Let's go to the next slide.
So that one day, perhaps generations from now, a majority of Americans will support a society governed by Islamic law. He, Mustafa Saeed, a Floridian who left the U.S. Brotherhood in 1998, says he found out.
Before we found out what Mustafa Saeed, who left the Muslim Brotherhood, found out, let's look again in the top of the slide. We read here, so that one day, perhaps generations from now, a majority of Americans will support a society governed by Islamic law. Excuse me. I thought you're telling me you come to America not to overthrow the government, but you come to America to follow the Constitution of the United States of America. So why now you're telling me that the whole purpose why you're here in America is to convert the people of America into Islam, so that someday you practice Sharia in America? Aha! We caught you. We know exactly what you're doing. You're not here because you love America, but you're here because you want to take over America. You don't love the American people for any reason but to use them as useful idiots. How? They first convert to Islam, then they support and have enough power, enough people, as me and Brother Rob started this broadcast by telling you, when Muslims have the upper hand, they will not be weak. They will not call for peace, but they will practice all the laws of Sharia. And that's exactly why the Muslim Brotherhood are here in America. Convert idiot Americans into Islam without even knowing anything about Islam. And boy, oh boy, Brother Rob, maybe in the future we can do a study on that to show the American people how the Americans are becoming Muslim. Not because they study Islam and they learn Islam, no, because they've been lied by those so-called Muslim believers, Muslim imams, Muslim scholars. So
what do you believe, Usama, is the attraction for those that do convert? Because there are a lot of people converting to Islam, leaving Christianity. We have one in a city 2 hours from me, who is a store owner, and she is not Muslim by birth, but she has converted. She's an American who's converted to Islam. What's the attraction?
The lies they hear about Islam. As a matter of fact, all our teaching is to expose these lies which Muslims spread all over America. Just to convert to Islam is a joke. Have you been following the impeachment for Mr. Trump the last few days? They're bringing one witness after another witness after another witness and after another witness. None of these witnesses can be called witness. Why? Because none of them have seen anything, or heard anything, or smell anything, or touch anything, or the senses, which is the five senses God gave to us. By it we become witness. These are fake witness. They are false witness. They heard somebody who told somebody, and that's what they're repeating what they have heard. I'm sorry, that's not how to be a witness. To become a Muslim, you have to say the Shahada. What is a Shahada? It is to bear witness. It is double witness. What it is? First one, most people have to say, I bear witness that there is no God except Allah. The second one is, and I bear witness that Muhammad is a messenger of Allah. Excuse me. Can you bear witness that there is no God except Allah? How can you do that? I mean, can you be all over the world all the time? You have to be a God to prove that there is no another God exists. What if there's some God somewhere else you didn't even know of his existence or her existence? So obviously it's a false witness. Have you seen Muhammad? No. Heard Muhammad? No. Touched Muhammad? No. Smelled Muhammad? No. Taste Muhammad? No. You're a false witness. So here we go. All the Americans who becoming Muslims, they build their belief on a lie. They bear witness that Muhammad is a messenger of Allah, even though that is, according to Sharia itself, is a false witness. Because Sharia required for you to be a witness, you have to use your senses: hearing, sight, touching, tasting, and feeling. Okay, none of these are, but anyway. So, Brother Rob, it's a sad story. We can go about it in some other program in depth, in details. But for now, let's look at what Mustafa Saeed found out. That is a gentleman.
Just to let you know, we're down to about 2 minutes here. So,
wait a minute. I thought you give me liberty to speak as much as I want. Let's close.
Oh, we'd love to sit here all night, but
okay.
We'll get you back here next month.
God's willing. God's willing. Let's go with the next slide before we find out what did Mustafa Saeed find out.
That the U.S. Brotherhood had a plan for achieving Islamic rule in America. It would convert Americans to Islam and elect like-minded Muslims to political office.
And Brother Rob, that's exactly what has been happening in America since Mr. Barack Hussein Obama came to power. Listen carefully. Their agenda is this. It is their plan to achieve Islamic rule in America. First, convert Americans to Islam. And boy, we have thousands of Americans becoming Muslims. Thousands. I mean, I'm not kidding you. While Muslims in the Muslim world are leaving Islam, Muslims who can read Arabic, who can understand the Quran, who knows everything you need to know about Muhammad, because they know what's in the Quran and because they know Muhammad, they're leaving Islam in the millions. If you go to Egypt, if you go to Iran, we have videos to prove that. Now, while Muslims leaving Islam, Americans who know nothing about Islam, they literally have no clue what it is, in the thousands are becoming Muslims. And the second important fact here is this: Muslims to political office. And that is actually what I want to talk about tonight. And sadly, we do not have time to talk about. When we talk about Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison, by the way, in last 2019, we got 34 Muslims came to power. 34 in 2019. Nahid Awad, the head of the Muslim Brotherhood, CARE, one of their chapters or one of their group here in America, he is making a promise, a commitment. 2020 America, 2020, there will be 30 congressmen and women running for office from CARE. So if you think Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib are not doing enough, trust me, CARE will add 30 more Muslim Brotherhood jihadi into our Congress, the House. I mean, it is sick even to hear that or to read that to American people. And they will win. You know why? Because there are some wonderful liberals out there, Democrat and others, who care less about our Constitution, who love the Muslims, who are going to do anything they can to accommodate the Muslims, and they will win because they will be elected by the people of America, the liberals and others. And God help us, if we continue to do that in the next 10, 15 years, America will be no more. Brother Ron.
Well, it is political correctness, and it's also indoctrination in our public schools, where we have kids that are being forced to recite the Shahada. So we are just about out of time. I just did want to mention that Usama Dakdok is available, and he's more than willing to come and speak at your church or your event or your special get-together. All you need to do is contact him. You can do that through his website at thestraightway.org. And I want to thank you all for joining us today. Usama, we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rashid, our producer, and all wonderful audience. God bless you, and we will see you again another broadcast if the Lord is willing. God bless you now.
Thanks.